my gosh, there's a lion inside of me. I never knew there was this lion. I feel like I just fought through war. By far the hardest part of giving birth.
You were really out of it.
It was crazy. Sorry, this is getting a little graphic.
I think the biggest role that guys can play on top of the practical is...
What are the stories that I've heard and also internalized for myself that have told me that I could never XYZ? Because technically speaking, anything is possible with God.
Yeah, mom and dad aren't doing well and we need help.
Yeah.
That's the reality.
That's one of the biggest challenges of pregnancy that people don't talk about is Hey guys, welcome back. We are so excited, particularly me, to talk about today's topic because it's been burning inside of me. I read so many other people's birth stories before giving birth, and it's just so powerful hearing other people's their journeys and their unique experiences. But also I feel like what's oftentimes missing in what you hear about people's birth stories is the realities of the ups and downs, how they're feeling, not just the play-by-play what actually happened, but the deeper stuff. And there's a lot when it comes to birth, both from the wife but also the husband's perspective.
Yeah.
As the birth partner. A lot of people don't know that the birth partner has such a crucial role to play when it comes to the birth. A lot of people think it's just the woman, pushing a baby out.
Nope, the guy goes through a lot of emotions and just stuff.
Yeah.
Especially if it's your first time. Oh man, there's just a lot of stuff that happens, just literally and also mentally and emotionally.
Yes.
And spiritually too.
Yes, exactly. So, we have so many friends that we know and other people that we know who are first-time parents expecting, and there's just so much unknown, all this anxiety you feel because there's a black box. You just don't know what's going to happen, how to prepare. So we want to share with you guys how it all unfolded for us, but also what we did to prepare, what surprised us, what we would have done differently. And looking back, just how God really just showed up, even though things didn't go exactly the way that we might have planned or expected or prayed for. If you're watching on YouTube, we have our baby Emmeline here, but it's almost her nap time. So this is the reality of parenthood, is that we always have to just roll with how things go now. So
yep,
we'll try our best to see if she will fall asleep.
You can fall asleep on me, Emmy.
As we record. Before we get into the nitty-gritty of what actually happened, how everything unfolded, we want to talk about the context behind birth. Why we approached it the way that we did, particularly for me as the birthing person. I think Emmy is...
Just keep going.
She's very invested in contributing her insights too. Because you were there too, Emmy, weren't you?
She probably had the biggest transition in life.
She's like, I want to tell it from my perspective, from inside the womb.
Yeah, what happened inside there?
Actually, that would be so cool to hear. If someone did a fictional movie. If you've been following my personal channel, you've heard a little bit about this because I share on my channel that I had a lifelong fear of birth. I was terrified of birth. When I was little, I would watch, or not would watch, but I came across some just traumatic movie scenes or media portrayals of birth where, it's always the same thing. It's always a screaming mom and it looks like they're dying and being tortured and a baby comes out, but everyone's panicking. It's just a very stressful event. And you also hear a lot about birth trauma and a lot of, people saying it's the worst thing, it's the hardest thing, and how bad, the negative side of it. But what's interesting is, so I've always wanted to be a mom. I've always wanted to have children. And that was the one thing that I was if there's any way I can just skip over the pain of birth, that would be great, So I never imagined that I would do an unmedicated natural birth, let alone...
What is
Alex
an unmedicated natural birth for?
It's the gist is basically not using an epidural for pain management. You can use other things for pain management, but just choosing to opt out of the epidural is the main thing. And I'll talk about why I did that. If you had told me when I found out I was pregnant I would do this, I would have said you're crazy, because again, I was terrified. I asked my mom when I was a kid to pray at night that I would never get pregnant. And that is just so ironic because having children is a blessing. Anyway, so I was just like terrified of it. But when we found out we were pregnant, it was actually Easter Sunday. Easter Sunday, we went out for dinner. I told Alex, I was like, I think I'm late on my period, and I don't know, I've just been feeling some a little bit different. And it was so subtle that, you know, it could have been a false alarm, but I told Alex, should we get a test? And that night, and then you were like, I don't know, it's kind of late and we're having dinner. Right before heading home, we went to a nearby CVS, picked up a pregnancy test, and we're like, whatever, we'll just like test and like have peace of mind that it's probably gonna be negative. And then that night we like got a very, very faint positive. If you want to see the full video reaction, it's pretty funny because I just feel like everyone talks about how, you know, it's so beautiful, you start crying when you find out, but we were just like, what? Like, we were just confused the whole time. So go watch our video if you're interested on our channel. But that week we found out we were pregnant, and that was Easter, right? And then at the same time, I saw, because I had come across like here and there, just like bits and pieces of like social media content from this platform called Christian Hypnobirthing, and I had heard about it too from some other Christian influencers I follow, and just like here and there I just heard about it. So I want to say it was like a day or two after we found out we were pregnant, I saw that they were having a major Easter sale on their course and their what is it called, their app. And I looked more into it, and I was just fascinated. I was like, this is very eye-opening, because essentially the claim that they, you know, promote is that birth can be beautiful, birth can be empowering, birth can be faith-filled, supernatural, God-led, and it could even be pain-free. Like, doesn't that sound like, if you ask a normal person, like, do you believe that? Like, how? But sure enough, if you look at their content, you see these women just like popping up babies. And some of them, I mean, some of them are really like in the zone. Other women are like smiling, even laughing. And it's just like, what? It's crazy. So it just really opened my eyes. When I came across their sale and I looked at their stuff, I was like, oh, wow, this is like totally challenging my paradigm, shifting and stretching my assumptions of like what birth could look like. From there, you know, the algorithm sees that you're interested in this kind of content. So I started getting more and more birth-related videos and content about pain-free birth, supernatural birth, natural birth, unmedicated birth, and getting more educated around this whole world that I really hadn't tapped into much until that season of like, oh wow, could I actually consider trying this and believing for it? Because prior to this, I would have just disqualified myself, because I've been told growing up, you know, my mom always told me like, oh, you have such low pain tolerance, you would cry so hard if you scraped your knee as a kid. Yeah, sure enough, if I got injured in any way or uncomfortable, you know, like I just felt like I self-labeled myself as like a low pain tolerance person. Pretty much had this like limiting belief for myself that, oh no, I could never, you know, do that. And this is just like a theme I've seen in my life, like growing up, is if you've ever said, I could never blank, I think that's like definitely an area where you could challenge yourself to consider, what are the limiting beliefs here? What are the stories that I've heard and also internalized for myself that have told me that I could never XYZ? Because technically speaking, anything is possible with God, you know, and that includes anything that you think is impossible for you. Emmy is like looking at me so, are you invested in your own birth story? So yeah, I started to consider, oh my gosh, what if birth doesn't have to be like this terrible, traumatic, horrific thing, and I could actually be one of these women giving birth without an epidural, and not just that, but actually getting to experience God in the process, which I feel like is ultimately, that was my main goal, was beyond any like, you know, pain-free, supernatural, whatever it looked like. I just wanted to learn, how do I reconcile this, you know, area where I've always had lifelong fear and trauma about, and how do I reconcile that with having genuine faith in God? Like, if I truly believed in God and that He could do anything, like He can empower me to do anything, then this is an area where I just felt so convicted when I just couldn't stop thinking about it. Like, I feel like God wants me to press into this with faith and building, like intentionally building my faith to believe that I can actually do something like this with his help and go through with it without like defaulting to fear and I can't do it mentality, if that makes sense. Remember I started telling you like about unmedicated birth and all that, like I remember you were kind of like not concerned, but you had your reservations like
No,
why?
I definitely did, because Grace is right. She does have a low pain tolerance. So I was just like, are you sure you want to do this? I mean, I support you, but are you sure? Like,
You're
just,
having reservations.
yeah, like,
Yeah.
do you really want to do this?
But I started explaining to you, right, all this stuff and all like the
Yeah.
education around it. And
Yeah, and I started reading more about it too, and like, oh, like, okay,
the benefits of it.
benefits, but also, oh, God created birth. Like, I mean, we're like big advocates of just organic, natural health. But when it comes to birth, I always thought you need like some pain management.
Yeah, because that's the default assumption.
Right. But as I started researching and reading it more, I just had more assurance that this is the way that God designed the body, and the body can take this. And I think our society just
Conditions you.
yeah, conditions
with
you
fear.
to believe that you need stuff
Yeah.
in order to give birth.
Right.
Like, people have natural births all the time.
Yeah.
And people did it way before technological advancement, so
Right.
we can do it too.
Granted, I mean, it's not always, there's some complications sometimes that come
Sure,
out that you
yeah.
can't predict or control, and infant mortality rates are definitely like a lot lower now because of intervention. So we're not against like the healthcare system, but it's like, instead of just defaulting to like, oh yeah, give me all the things so I don't like, I'm not in pain, like it's so important to question like, where are these assumptions coming from where I just pick this by default, or like the healthcare system just tells me to do this by default. There's just so many built-in biases, in our society, in our systems, and in our own minds. And I feel like that, I mean, that's an overarching theme we talk a lot about on our podcast, is like, what are the assumptions and scripts and expectations that you kind of just like pick up from the people and culture around you, versus just like thinking really critically, like, what do you feel like God is leading you to do? There's no right or wrong way to approach birth. Birth is a very personal decision, and there's no shame at all. I have tons of friends and know so many people who've done epidural, who, they had inductions, C-sections, or emergency C-sections, and there's like, it's not like grading or measuring what kind of birth you have, because ultimately it's a personal decision and there's so much you can't control. But the whole point that I'm trying to make is like, instead of me going like, oh yeah, like I can't do this, just like give me all the medication and stuff, I really felt like God was like, just press in. Like, you don't, like, stop putting yourself and also me in a box without investigating like for yourself what this is really all about, and why you're doing what you're doing. Is it out of fear? Which I never want to make decisions based out of fear or anxiety or just like lack of faith. Like, I ultimately felt very personally convicted when I was thinking about this, praying about it, that, oh wow, God really wants me, I think, to believe that I can do this. So I prepped, I did all the things to prepare for months and months. You can look on my personal YouTube channel to hear about what I did to prepare mentally, spiritually, physically. And then Alex also had a role. Do you want to talk about your role as the birth partner? Because I think a lot of people don't realize, it's important for the husband, if you're married and you have a husband who wants to help support you in your birth, like they don't just show up at the hospital with you without having done their own due diligence.
Well, initially, I wasn't really sure, like just the months leading up, I wasn't really sure how to help, because I'm not the one doing the laboring. And so I was just like, I want to help, but I'm not really sure how. But we just through some conversations, some research, listening with Grace on the Christian hypnobirthing class, and even though I was not the one giving birth, I actually just played it to fall asleep. it was like so nice. It's basically just biblical, not just, but it's biblical affirmations specifically for birth. But you know, I just internalize it to my own context. Obviously, I'm not giving birth.
Yeah.
And then we also did partner prenatal yoga. So that was to
In a non-spiritual setting, FYI.
yeah,
Not
non-spiritual,
weird.
non-third eye setting.
Yeah.
So we did that together. It's really good just for bonding, chemistry, but also physically
To show you how to help me, like exercises and stretches.
yeah, to like widen your hips or something like that.
Press against my hips.
Yeah, like we practiced birth positions and how I can help. I did counter pressure. She did some breathing techniques as well. And then I think overarching is just emotional support, just like asking, how can I help? Not during the birth, but also before the birth too. Like, can I like cook you dinner or do chores or anything like that?
Yeah.
So I think the biggest role that guys can play, besides on top of the practical, is just being emotional and spiritual support. Actually, one thing that I did that Grace really likes, and I think Emmy likes too, is I read Psalms to both Grace and Emmy. So I read like a chapter or two of Psalms each night.
That was
And
so sweet. It still blesses my heart so much. He did it again last night, and I was like, oh, this is so reminiscent of when Emmy was in my stomach, not stomach, my womb.
Yep. So yeah, read Psalms each night, and we also just pray together as well.
Yeah, I think anything that the man can do to like be a spiritual leader, like it doesn't have to look exactly like that, but any way that you can help just spiritually prepare the way for your family, you know.
Yep.
So it might be reading scripture, it might be praying, it might be worshiping together, connecting, you know, on a deep level, because I think it can be very isolating sometimes for women to be like, oh, it's all on me. But the husband, even though you're not the one forming the human inside of you, like you two are one flesh, you've brought this life together, and so you both have like a critical role to play.
Yep, for sure.
I also feel like you taking the hypno birthing course with me, and also watching build to birth videos that I would send to you, like you being educated on what to expect and the physiological process of birth, and us having conversations about it really helped too. Because imagine if you didn't know any of that going in, I feel like you would be like so clueless, like what's happening and freaking out. And
yeah. I mean, there were times where I felt clueless during the birth.
Yeah,
let's
definitely.
be honest.
Me too. Yeah, despite all our research and preparation, we still were like, wait, what's going on?
Yeah.
Which is why having a doula was such a good move.
So
Right, Emmy?
let's fast forward a bit.
Yes, so let's fast forward. So the due date, so our due date was projected to be December 5th. And again, this is another cultural script that I started to realize, like when I was reflecting on like, why am I starting to feel anxious when I have been like so chill and you know, not worried at all about the due date, because I had done so much research and read and learned about how the body just knows, like you were made to give birth as a woman, and your body just knows, your baby just knows when to come out in general. Like in most cases, there's of course exceptions, but in general, you don't have to worry about that, especially if it's, you know, if it's only a few days before your due date and you still haven't gone into labor, or after, even like a few days after your due date. So anyway, my due date came and went, but I started to feel so anxious and worried out of nowhere. Like I was confused, like why am I feeling like this? Because I hadn't been feeling this way, until I realized, I pinpointed, okay, my anxiety that I'm feeling is actually caught from other people's anxiety, because I'm on these like Facebook mom groups of people with the same due date month, who a lot of them are like, oh, like I need to get this baby out. I'm doing all these methods to try to get the baby out. I have a scheduled induction to get them out. Horror stories about baby not coming in time, and what would happen if it's too overdue. And then also my OBGYN and their, you know, the nurse practitioner saying like, oh, do you have a plan on like how do you want to approach it if baby isn't here by the due date, basically. Like they would ask me the weeks leading up to my due date, kind of like implying, not like explicitly saying, but like implying that baby needs to come soon because if they're too big, it's going to be really hard to give birth, especially unmedicated. Like, actually, no, the OB did say that, like, especially, she's like, baby shouldn't be too big. Otherwise, it'll be like, because I told her my intent was to do a natural birth. And she's like, well, as long as, you know, you don't gain too much weight, baby's not too big, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, oh, okay, but you can't really control how big your baby is. And then I just heard so much conflicting advice about this, like, oh, baby can be big without you worrying that you can't give birth, you know. So anyways, I just started feeling like really conflicted, anxious, and then realizing on December 6th, so this was the day after, I made a post on my Instagram saying, called The Worth of Waiting. And I realized that so much of our anxiety and worry in life, regardless, like birth is just one example, but like, you know, waiting for a spouse or waiting for a job or waiting for a career promotion or waiting for just something that we want to happen that we feel like should happen according to a certain timeline because everyone else seems like it's happening to them at a certain timeline, or, you know, the horror stories that we hear if it's too late and blah, blah, blah. But, you know, God's timing is always perfect. And I just felt like, oh, wow, like I don't need to rush to do things out of fear, out of just giving in to these voices of fear all around. Like I really feel like God just wants me to wait and trust and know that his timing is perfect. And then I also felt like, okay, instead of, you know, fretting and just like twiddling my thumbs all day and just being so focused on the fear aspect of like, oh my gosh, how are we gonna wait it out? Using my energy, channeling my energy to pray and to actually lean into more, you know, intentional faith building. When you look at the Bible, like that's what the disciples did when they were waiting for, I was telling Alex, I remember telling him like, oh my gosh, remember when Jesus left, he didn't tell them like a time frame in which like the Holy Spirit would come. He just said, just wait and like you will receive power. But like it could have been 3 days, 3 weeks, 3 years, 3 decades. Like they had no idea. But what did they do? They dedicated themselves to prayer. And I just felt so convicted, like, okay, I don't know what the timeline will look like, but I'm just gonna pray and try my best not to focus on this. And then that night, Alex had an amazing idea. We used anointing oil that our friend, shout out to Marissa if she ever watches this. She actually made anointing oil for us and gifted it to us when we moved down here. Also, sorry if you're watching on YouTube. Emmy is trying to fall asleep while I'm holding her.
I'll finish her thought.
Okay.
So we basically prayed over each of our rooms in our place, the doors, bathroom, bedroom, living room, and just had anointing oil on each of them.
Yeah. I remember we wanted to do it ever since we moved in, but we just like kept putting it off.
Yeah.
And for some reason that day, I don't know, like both of us were just like, oh, let's do this. And then I suggested it and then you reminded me later, and then we felt so much peace that night, like after anointing the place, like preparing for our baby's arrival. And then lo and behold, that morning, December 7th, after a good night's sleep, I was starting to feel these very mild, like cramp-like sensations. And it was so subtle. Like I texted my friends and I texted our doula, like, I have no idea, like it's very faint. It could be like false labor, or I could just be making it up in my mind, but I kind of feel like these very mild cramp-like sensations since 7:30 in the morning. And I also had blood on, you know, in my underwear. And I was like, oh wow, is this a bloody show? But it wasn't super mucousy, so I wasn't sure. So anyway, I just like kept monitoring, and sure enough, it was regular. It was like every like 7 minutes or so, like feeling these sensations. And I was like, but how do I tell if it's false or not? And this is where, okay guys, if you haven't considered getting a doula, you should just do it. Like if you're on defense about a doula and you feel anxious and worried and you feel like you're in the dark about birth, about labor and delivery, about pregnancy, just go for it. It's worth the investment. I know it's like a cost and we're all in tight financial times these days, but it's worth it to spend on something that literally will change such an important, significant experience that you have that will like mark you and stay with you for your entire life. This is another way the husband can be like the support is to be like the main point of contact with updates about what's going on, because for the birthing person, they are like so focused on just getting through the contractions and just getting through labor. Like labor is called labor for a reason. So you want the person who's not actively laboring to be texting and communicating with anyone outside. So anyway, he was texting updates to our doula. She just kept encouraging us to keep ourselves busy, to not like obsessively count and track, which is really hard because you're just like really wanting to track to see how things are progressing. But she encouraged us to keep busy all day. And we actually kept busy all day so much that even that night, because it was around Christmas time, approaching Christmas time, and we were actually kind of sad that, not sad, but just like, oh, it's too bad that like we'll likely miss out on a lot of Christmas activities that we really love, because both of us love Christmas, because we'll probably be taking care of our newborn and not sleeping much and stuff. So that day we found out about a nearby nativity event, and then Alex was like, ooh, I really want to go to the nativity event.
No, I really wanted to go because Christmas is my favorite holiday.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's not every day or even every year that we give birth, but I just wanted to do something, or else I'll just have FOMO of missing Christmas festivities because we have a baby. We asked our doula, she said yes, go have fun.
Yeah.
And we went, and it was fun.
Yeah, we even sang like Christmas carols and like worship songs, and it was about Jesus's birth, and it was so beautiful because we're like, oh, that could be our baby anytime soon.
Yep.
Fast forward, we came back home, and then I remember having even more. Oh, actually, before that, I had more bloody show that was mucousy, and so that was a positive sign that like, oh, this is I really am in early labor now, not just like, definitely not false labor. And then that night I took a bath because I had been wanting to shower anyway, and then I asked my doula, like, how do you know if like your water breaks if you take a shower or a bath, because you're all wet? And she basically explained that if your water breaks, you'll continue to leak even after that. So good thing I was like, okay, cool. Like, we had so many questions all throughout the process, and this is why it's so helpful to have a doula, guys, because she was like our person. Like, we kept texting her, Alex especially, like all our questions. How do you know this? This is the progress. What do we do? What should we do? And what do we not do? Is this okay? Is that okay? And having a doula was such a game changer, especially during the labor, which we'll talk about.
Yeah, so it's 10:30 roughly, and we've been tracking contractions, and they're just getting more closer and closer, which means baby's about to pop out. So they intensified around 10:30, and I was like, should we go to a hospital? Should we sleep? Like, can I even sleep?
Yeah, and so, she was like, yeah, get some, just try to rest. Any rest is good.
I can't rest. My brain's like hyperactive right now. So, we just try to remain calm. Grace is breathing, I'm breathing, and we're just trying to be chill as a cucumber.
But I remember you literally tried to sleep. So I was like just playing the hypnobirthing track like the entire time, just like trying to breathe my way through them, not wanting to bother you, because I was like, he needs to get sleep because he's going to hold down the fort for us.
Yep. And then around a little past 1 a.m., Grace woke me up and...
No, I texted our doula first. I asked her, like, okay, now it's like really close. Like, they're about 1 minute, lasting for 1 minute and about 3 to 4 minutes apart. And then that's when she's like, okay, you guys should head to the hospital now. And I was like, oh, here we go. And that's when I woke you up, like, it's time to go.
Yep. So it was a flurry, but we just like grabbed everything, rushed through the car.
Good thing we packed beforehand.
Yeah, we packed beforehand, and then we arrived at the hospital. Our doula was there, thank God. She escorted Grace in, and I parked the car, I went in, and then this was where it started happening. So
yeah, well, let me just mention that the contractions really felt, Emmy just took my,
hold it.
She just grabbed my microphone. You can go to sleep, Emmy. Shh. I should just mention that the contractions really felt really intense. Like, by the time I woke Alex up, I actually myself felt like I don't think I can do this by myself anymore. I really need Alex and our doula to help me through these because they were really painful. And so I kind of sense like, okay, I'm definitely not going to have a pain-free birth at this rate, but it doesn't mean the presence of pain does not mean the absence of God. And I think oftentimes we associate pain with something bad, with something negative, and we want to avoid pain. We associate with something like that's unwanted. And I just felt like such clarity, like going into birth, that yes, I can pray for a pain-free birth, because that would be awesome. But at the same time, even if there is pain, or even if things don't go the way I want or expect, like I can still believe that God is in it for a reason, and he orchestrates all of it for a reason. So we make our way to the hospital, and then at the hospital it was so surreal, just like being pitch black, no one is there, and it's just our car pulling up and our doula standing in the dark. It's like a movie scene with like a lamp shining, and we check in. Alex goes to park the car, we check in, and they check me. I'm already 8 to 8.5 centimeters dilated, and I'm 90% effaced. That's basically 9 out of 10 centimeters dilated, and 90% out of 100% effaced.
What does that mean?
It just means you're nearly there. Like everything, like your everything down there is like thinning out, getting ready to get your baby out. They were like, oh wow, you are very far along. And I was like, oh wow, I actually did what I wanted to do, was actually do majority of the labor at home, not in the hospital, because that is a big tip that you learn when you study or prepare for unmedicated birth, is try to labor at home as long as possible, because the earlier you get to the hospital, the more temptation and the more pressure you get to get medication or to get other interventions that are just not necessary oftentimes. I remember very specifically being at the front, the check-in area, and they had me sign a bunch of forms, like read a bunch of forms and sign a bunch of forms, and I had to like stop in the middle of signing multiple times to literally breathe and rock my body and close my eyes and be like, I needed to take a break.
Oh wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah, remember, I think you were busy putting up the sign maybe on our door. I don't know, but there's like a Christian hypnobirthing sign that says like, oh, please keep this a peace-filled environment. And I remember at some point you were a little bit absent because you went to go took our wall tape to like put that sign on the door. I just remember being so like shook that like, how do they have pregnant women who are in labor reading all of this paperwork and signing? And it was just, I felt like, oh my gosh, this is so surreal. And the entire time I was playing Christian hypnobirthing tracks to really just like keep my mind on like affirmations and truth, just to empower myself to get through it, because it was so painful and so hard, guys. It was getting much harder and harder, so I could barely think. And I just remember like multiple times throughout labor being asked questions, being asked to make decisions. Do we want this or that? Like, are we okay if they do this? To sign paperwork, to agree to things. And I looked at Alex and I was like, oh my gosh, like thank God we have our doula here, because she could help. We could bounce off our questions with her and ask her like, oh, what do you think? Like is this okay? And because our doula is the third party who knows our wishes and our vision for the birth and what we've wanted. And so she, and with her experience through so many births, she could also help guide through, like advocate for us basically, to talk to the hospital staff about our needs or ask them for more time to make decisions. So it was so helpful to have our doula there. I can't emphasize that enough. So I remember Alex reading affirmations from the Christian hypnobirthing course to me. We had it on our wall at home, but then also he rehearsed it so much, like he listened to the track so much and practiced it at home, that he was able to read those over me during active labor at the hospital. He also put up that sign that was so helpful too, to let people know this is a peaceful, we want to keep the peaceful space, not have too many people, not too much commotion, keep the lights dim, all this stuff. And we're also practicing Christian hypnobirthing. So in a way, it was kind of like subtle evangelism as well. Because I remember our OB and the nurses also asked like, oh wow, these tracks are great, like what are they? And we're like, oh, it's Christian hypnobirthing. So that was around 2 a.m. and then Emmy is finally knocked out, by the way. 4:30 a.m. So 2.5 hours later, I'm still 9.5 centimeters dilated. Our baby Emmy was at 0 station. So if you don't know, there's like stations, right? Like they want to be basically plus 3. So there's like -1, -2, -3, and then 0. 0 is basically they need to keep pushing. They need to keep moving down. Okay, they're not down enough yet. And so I remember just feeling like I am stuck at 9.5 centimeters forever. It just felt like forever because every contraction was coming, like within minutes, it was coming and it was so strong. Just it's hard to put into words. Like you can imagine the pain, but you don't know what it actually feels like until you're in it and you're like, how am I gonna make it? I swear the only way I made it through was because of Alex's affirmations, holding me, cheering me on, encouraging me. You just kept saying things like do you remember? I think you said like, you can do it, you got this, you're so strong. You were cheering me on so I could believe in myself.
Yeah, I was just praying for you and reading those affirmations and, stroking your back. And
Holding my hand.
it felt like, honestly, from a guy's perspective, it felt like the same thing. Like, okay, she's pushing, she's in pain. Okay, let's read some scripture over her. It felt eventful, but it wasn't eventful for like a few hours.
So you felt like you weren't doing much, but you were actually doing the essential.
Yeah, I felt like we're not making any progress. Like, okay, you're
That's
pushing.
Just so funny.
Yeah.
I feel like that's like a parallel to prayer. We feel like we pray and we're like, it's not doing anything, but it's actually moving. It's doing a lot in the spiritual realm.
Yeah.
That's how I felt. I was like, oh my gosh, thank God for Alex, because I could not make it through these surges, these contractions, these waves of pain if my husband wasn't there reminding me of these truths, these affirmations that we have rehearsed. But it's like, if you're by yourself, it's just so, I honestly don't think I could have made it through without Alex and also our doula. Both of them really cheering me on, encouraging me, being like, you got this, you're amazing, you can do this. And also the hypnobirthing tracks playing in the background, scripture, empowering verses, everything that I just like really built my faith on for like 9 months straight, basically. So
yeah, and I was trying to sleep too, like in the process, but I'm like, our doula was like, yeah, Alex, you can go to sleep. Like, okay.
This was before it got really intense though.
Yeah. I mean, it all felt like a blur, but yeah. I was trying to sleep, just laid my head down, and first of all, hospitals are not a great place to sleep. It's not very comfortable. My bench is like a twin bed cut in like thirds. Like it's a third of a twin bed. It was not comfortable at all. Knowing like, oh man, I feel guilty for taking a nap while my wife's laboring. And so I didn't sleep at all that night.
Yeah, neither of us did.
Yeah,
so that was before it got really intense. That was before 4:30, I remember, because at 4:30 it was really, we were in it. Like, I just remember being like, what in the world? This is no joke. Like, people did not explain to me enough, did not accurately describe enough how painful it can be. I was like, there's no way. How is this possible? My entire being is just overwhelmed with the pain. Not to scare anyone who is pregnant or wants to have kids, but it's intense. It can be intense. It's different for everyone. And then I remember by far the hardest part of giving birth.
I can explain.
Okay.
Because you probably were
crazy.
You were really out of it.
It was crazy.
So I don't know how this works, but Grace really wanted, and she desperately wanted to push.
I was like, I have to push. I want to push.
But then our doctor said, no, don't push.
They kept telling us not to push.
Yeah.
I think it was because they kept saying like it would make things more complicated because basically our baby hadn't been low enough station yet. So they wanted me to not push. And also, I needed to be ideally 10 centimeters dilated. So they wanted me to wait that half a centimeter, but I was still 9.5 centimeters for the longest time. But I had these urges. It was like I had the biggest poop in the world and I had to get it out. And it was like,
Is that what it feels like?
yes. And it was so like, not just annoying, but just imagine, you know, like that uncomfortable feeling you have when you know you have a big poop and you need to poop, but people are telling you you can't poop and you're sitting on the toilet. You're like ready to poop. You're on the toilet.
I was frustrated because I'm like, can she just push? Like, why not? But I mean, they know better than I do. But
it was so hard. I was like, everything in me wanted to push. They kept telling me, don't push. And I was like, how do I not? And
then you were trying like all different positions, like
losing
like
it.
I didn't even know that was positions, but
I was on all fours. I was like, I was standing, I was rocking. I don't know. I just felt like it is going to be impossible for me not to push. Like, I need to push. I just kept saying, I need to push. And they kept saying, don't push. And then our doula, thank God for her again, she's like, breathe it down, breathe her down, breathe your baby down. And I was like, oh, I don't know how. So for my future pregnancies and birth, and anyone else who's listening to this, if this happens to you, because it doesn't happen to everyone, but I think what my hypothesis is, what happened was, even though my body really wanted to push, ideally it wasn't time yet, so I should not like forcefully push, because that probably could have caused even more tearing or more complications, but to focus on breathing down. And what does breathing down mean? It means, you could practice this actually on the toilet. You just like, instead of pushing by brute force like your poop out, sorry, this is getting a little graphic, you just breathe like you're blowing. And that's essentially what they wanted me to do. But I was in a panic and I was like, I don't know how to do this. I need to push. And that panic hinders your breathing. So anyway, that's what I would practice more in the future, is like breathing down, and also just knowing that, okay, no matter what's happening, it's going to be okay. Because I think I read about this too. Any ounce of like fear or panic or anxiety, it actually can stall labor. I really tried my best not to fear, and also I did horse lips, you know, going like, and
it was so funny.
And
I mean, it was like,
I was like doing,
and I moved.
Yeah, doing the
like,
moves.
Is this a barn in here?
Because you learn about this in the course, and online they teach you like the looser your lips are, it correlates with your pelvic floor, and so you want to make low sounds. And so I just like let it out. I was like a lion. I just made sounds and was
like
vocal.
The animal kingdom in one
and
body.
It was, guys, it was like a spiritual breakthrough experience. I feel like, you know, like in Sailor Moon when she like twirls and then like bam, she's like wearing this like amazing outfit. Like
I unfortunately do know what you're talking about.
It's amazing. That's how I felt. I feel like so this is why I'm talking about like the pain was not necessarily a bad thing, because I had to go through that. I felt like, oh my gosh, there's a lion inside of me. I never knew there was this lion. And I was like, it broke off, you know, embarrassment, you know, fear of what people think. Like even now we're recording outdoors and there's people all around. I don't care. Like people have seen me naked roaring like a lion in a hospital room. Like it just really broke so many things about like, oh my gosh, my body and I am so amazing. Like God designed me for this. And so finally at 6:15, we're at 10 centimeters dilated, and baby was also at +3 station. So finally they said, okay, you can start pushing. And I just felt like the biggest relief, like finally.
Like biggest diarrhea.
But that's, you know how like on the toilet when you start pushing, like it normally comes out fast. Like that was not the case. I was pushing, but it still felt stuck. And I was like, no. And it's just like so frustrating, but also like, okay, I could do this. And so this is why, again, you're like battling. It's an internal war, guys. It's like you're on a battlefield. And so I'm like, no, this is so hard. I don't know. But then Alex and my doula, they're like cheering me on. You can do this. You got this. Even the nurses, they were so nice. I was pushing, but 6:15 to 6:40, I was pushing. I just was like, oh my gosh, I need to get this baby out. This is driving me nuts. It's so painful. I don't know how much longer I can wait. And then also, can the doctor come? I was like, where's the OB? Because our OB wasn't there.
Our OB actually did. This was the frustrating part because she actually did. I don't know how this works, but apparently you need your OB there to deliver the baby.
Yes.
And
so they let me start pushing, but not all the way.
So the frustrating thing is she already arrived like hours before. So I knew she was there, like in the hospital.
She checked in with us.
And then Grace was pushing and pushing, like, but then she can't like fully push the baby out until the doctor arrives.
Yeah, they were like, wait for the doctor. Like, wait for
the doctor. Where the heck is
she? It's like, imagine, again, I'm sorry to get graphic. I'm just trying to help people who have never given birth. Just imagine you are pushing out the biggest poop and it's halfway out your butt. And they're telling you can't push the rest.
You can't finish it.
It's like your butt is like wide open. Sorry, guys. Should we mark this as like explicit? Anyway, it was just so. I was like, "What is where's the doctor?" I just kept saying, "She needs to go. Where is she?" I was like losing it.
I was losing it too because I knew she's there. What's she doing? Is she like drinking tea or what? What is going on?
I think I remember saying like, "Can she come faster?" Like I was just.
Now's not the time to listen to a podcast.
Oh my gosh. But finally, okay. So 6:15 to 6:40, how long is that? It's basically 25 minutes straight of me feeling like I am in eternity.
You're like halfway poop.
It felt like eternity, guys, because imagine the contractions are still happening constantly, and I'm like, I can't. She needs to come now. Because this baby is gonna come. Finally, 6:40, she's here. They give me the green light to fully push. And here's another thing to watch for. And I'm so proud of myself, and I definitely will do this, but even to a stronger extent next time. I had read about how giving birth on your back is not an ideal position because it's actually working against gravity and it's working against your physiological response to push your baby out with gravity's help. So ideally, you should be on a squatting position or all fours or on your side or whatever, but just on your back is just recommended by the natural birth education specialists as not the ideal position. So when I said, okay, fine, I can push, they were like, okay, go on your back. And I was like, no. Do you see my birth plan? Like I had handed them my birth preferences plan earlier on, and I was like, no, I don't want to push on my back. I do not want. And I am so glad, thank God for our doula again, because she really advocated as well. Like, is there any other position? She doesn't want to do her back. But I remember there was like back and forth of like the nurse was like insisting that I go on my back because that's the easiest for the OB to see things and to catch the baby. But I was like, no, I do not want my back. But I'm literally, I can't even think straight. And so communicating that was so hard. I just remember internally being like, what in the world? Like, no way. But thank God our OB advocated, and then she was like, okay, we can try. Are you okay with on your side? And I was like, okay, yes, like anything but my back. They put me on my side. They had like a stirrup thing to put my leg in, I remember. And I just started pushing the heck out. Like I was like all full force, like let it out. It's like
I knew she was coming
It's like the diarrhea feeling, like just get it out. It's so painful, but please. We kept hearing, look at that hair. Like the nurses and the OB, look at that full head of hair.
Yeah, they're like, do you want to see? I'm like, no, thank you. I'll be where I cannot see.
Oh, I remember also, I was like, oh my gosh, is this the ring of fire? Because that's what I heard about, is like right before baby comes out, like that's the maximal stretching and it feels like the ring of fire. And then Alex was like, just think it's the ring of joy.
Oh, I did say that.
And then I was like, yes, ring of joy, ring of joy.
And then all the doctors were like, yeah, it's the ring of joy. It's the ring of joy. Oh, wow, it caught on.
you started a movement.
Wow.
You're a culture changer.
Yeah.
So yeah, we just kept saying like, it's the ring of joy, it's the ring of joy. And they were like cheering me on and like telling me to push and also to wait, And again, I'm really glad I did it unmedicated because I did really honestly feel down there like, okay, the urges, when to push, when not to push, because that's the other thing I heard about. If you just default to an epidural, you really can't feel anything. So you literally are are pushing just according to what they're telling you, not how your body's really intuitively feeling. Kept pushing, and then finally she came out and we heard her adorable cry, which apparently we didn't know was cute because we're not around babies much, but the doctors and nurses automatically went like, "Oh, her cry is so cute."
When she first came out, I was like crying, but I was also shocked, and I'm like relieved, and it was just like such a mix of emotions.
Yeah, same.
Yeah.
I was in shock. I was like, what just happened? I literally, if you look at photos, I will post videos or photos and try to like include it either here on my Instagram when I post this video, but my face literally, the caption should be, what just happened? Where am I? What planet am I on? Like, that's how my face looks. It's just like bewildered.
Yeah.
Because it literally, I remember texting my friends right after that, being like, oh, sharing that we gave birth and have a baby now and everything's all good. Thank you for your prayers. But I also was like, I feel like I just fought through war. I feel like
You did.
I went through the trenches of war and I can take over the world. Like, I really felt so empowered because I couldn't believe I did it with, Alex's help and our doula. Yeah, it was so surreal. I think the first, not just week, but like several weeks and also months, it was just like still that feeling of surrealness that people just don't tell you, like, or they don't talk about, because you just see on Instagram people post like, oh, like, Noah Bennett Smith arrived and every mommy and baby are doing well, and it's like happily ever after. But it's like the first few months you're in shock, like what just happened, and you're not sleeping, so you're also processing. You're like, you don't have time to process what actually happened.
Yeah, mom and dad aren't doing well, and we need help.
Yeah,
that's the reality.
That's how we felt. Yes, we're like, I'm dying. But anyway, that's a whole nother subject about postpartum. But essentially, I just remember being like, what? That's a baby, and that's a real baby, and that thing was inside of me. Like, that's honestly how I felt. Was like, whose baby? Like, that came out of me. And then also, a lot of people talk about, or don't talk about this, like, mom and baby don't automatically have a bond right away necessarily. Like some moms do. But I remember feeling like really surreal to the point of like who is that? Like, I know it's a baby. I know it's my baby, but mentally I can understand, but emotionally I still can't process because it's just so shocking. Like, everything that you went through. Just imagine fighting through war. You're on a roller coaster ride right after, no time to process or like reflect on or rest about what just happened. You don't get like a retreat after your hard work.
Yeah.
I felt like we did really well together preparing, and I'm really grateful, especially for Alex's help, because I honestly don't think I could have done it without him. But what would you say was the most surprising aspect to you about the entire process of labor and delivery, and advice for other new dads?
Everything was a surprise.
Even though you learned about it and we watched videos and stuff, and
yeah, I mean, there's theory, but then everything's new. Like, this is our first child, and
yeah,
just the whole experience was a surprise.
Yeah.
But I was surprised you went through a natural birth. That was my biggest surprise.
Can you talk about the role of our doula? Because I think some people are like, oh, my husband's going to be there, so I don't need a doula.
Oh, yeah, you definitely need a doula.
I don't want to spend money,
Yeah, it's well worth the investment.
Yeah.
You will not think very clearly, especially if it's your first child. Like, you're like going into something new. They've done it before. You're going to have to make decisions on the fly because anything can happen.
Right.
But
and it's
more than
what
that,
to do.
She just lifted like emotional burden off of us, especially me. Like,
we had so many questions.
I don't know what to say to these doctors. I don't know all this lingo.
Yeah.
Can you just make a decision for me? Like, you already know our plan. You already know our hearts. Just do whatever.
Not do whatever.
Not do whatever, but do whatever is in our will.
Yeah, because you trust her, because she understands our wishes, and like, she's gotten to know us, she's heard about our thoughts about things. Because I think that's essentially, because I think a lot of people who are preparing for birth, especially now in this day and age, are like, they don't know much what to expect, but they're like, oh, but my husband will be there, or like, I can Google things and like ask AI.
Nah, you you need someone. You need a presence.
Yeah.
It's irreplaceable.
Especially if you've never been around other people giving birth or having babies. Like, it's really essential.
Which is most of us.
Yeah. So,
but I would also say, like, another thing is take a proactive role. Even though, like, there were times where I'm like, I don't really know what to do. Like, during this whole 9-month process.
Yeah.
But especially during birth, like, don't be passive. Pat her back or affirm her, say I love you. All those things, right?
Yeah.
They make a difference.
Make a huge difference. It might not look productive, just like Alex said before. It might seem like you're not doing much or getting stuff done, but it makes a huge difference lifting that emotional burden, and not just lifting it, but just like knowing that you have someone carrying it with you. Because I think one of the biggest challenges of pregnancy that people don't talk about is how isolating and overwhelming it can be for first-time moms, especially, to be like, I have so many different emotions, my hormones are also crazy, and so many unknowns, anxieties, but it feels like it's all on you, and you also don't know how to articulate it in a way that like won't freak out your husband. So I just remember very clearly like feeling overwhelmed at times during the pregnancy, but then when you asked me how I was feeling and then like what you can do to help, and actually helping like project manage stuff and you know talk to our doula during the birth and you know so many other things, I was like, oh, thank God, like this is so important and much needed help. Or even like encouraging me to like take walks with you when I just wanted to sit around because I felt so pregnant.
Yeah. Classes.
Yeah. Or drink water, you know, just taking care of your wife is also taking care of your baby. Yeah, exactly. You might think, oh, maybe having my mom there will be enough. It really depends on, does your mom not freak out in situations like birth? And are they going to make you more anxious and stressed? Because we've considered a lot of things about like who's going to be there with us. And ultimately, my mom actually told me, she's like, oh, when you told me you had a doula, I was so relieved. Because I know if I was in that room with you, I would also be freaking out because she's only given birth once, and it was to me. And she said it was all a blur and it was crazy, and she had an epidural, so she didn't know much at all. She took one birth class, I think that's it, and she said all the techniques that they teach you in the birth class went out the window as soon as you're in birth. So yeah, just like what Alex said, like you can do all the prep, all the research, all the learning in your mind, but I really feel like the most helpful thing for me personally as the mom, as the birthing person, was hearing people's real life birth stories, to hear the realities of it, not just like the glossy, glorified version you see on Instagram of like magical birth, but like what was hard, what was unexpected, what would you do differently, and asking moms those questions, I feel like, or hearing people's responses to that, like helps a lot. So if you're listening to this episode, you're already a huge step ahead. I feel like most people never really investigate. They just kind of show up at the hospital without knowing what's going to happen and just like go along with whatever is they're told to do, and then that can often lead to a cascade of interventions that are maybe not necessary or like lead to a lot of birth trauma. My biggest advice would be like treat pregnancy and labor and birth as spiritual, in the sense of this is part of a journey that God is taking you on to stretch you in ways that are beyond your comfort zone. Because I think it's so easy in our culture to just be like, oh, like just get it over with, and you know, just pain or discomfort is seen as, again, a negative thing. But I really feel like through this whole process and experience, what I felt so convicted about, especially through postpartum, is that pain is not the absence of God. It is oftentimes part of what he wants us to go through in order to grow, in order to evolve and transform in ways that we could not otherwise, especially when it comes to leaning on him, you know, just like what Paul says in the Bible about the thorn in his side, or even Jesus going to the cross, going through pain. And like God's glory and power can be shown that much more oftentimes when we see pain not as a bad negative thing that to run away from, to numb, but actually to aid, to fuel us in leaning more into faith and leaning more into our trust in God, and also the seemingly impossible things that we disqualify ourselves from, but actually he wants us to believe we can accomplish and we can experience him through when we trust in him and work together in our marriage or with lean on other people and have, you know, a faith-filled perspective. There's more tips you can find on my personal YouTube channel if you're curious, but I hope that by sharing our real life birth story with all the ups and downs and TMI illustrations,
The poops.
it will really help new expecting moms and dads or future aspiring moms and dads as well. They say that with second, third time, fourth time kids, the birth actually gets, in general, not always, easier and faster.
Yeah.
So hopefully that will be the case. And also our OB, right after our baby came out, I remember our OB and our doula and the nurses all said, "Oh my gosh, that was amazing. You should have so many more kids."
I remember they did say that.
Yeah, like, you need to give birth more. And also,
It's like a hobby.
the next one will be so easy. The fact that you did like, our labor was considered short, I guess, in the hospital, but even though it felt like eternity. All right, thanks guys. Hope this
Thanks,
was
guys.
helpful, and we'll see you guys next time.